Okay.
Gained one, lost one. Hey, welcome all to the regular city council meeting of the city of San Juan Bautista, Tuesday, December 21st, 2021. It is 6:12. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E1A in order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus. The City Council is conducting this meeting by Zoom webinar and will be offering alternative options for public participation. You are encouraged to watch the meeting live on Zoom or Facebook. Pledge of Allegiance. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
of the United States of America
and
and
to
to
the republic
the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Deputy City Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Jordan,
Present.
Vice Mayor Flores,
Here.
Councilmember Friels,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman. You're muted, Councilmember Freeman.
Councilmember Freeman, can you please join us?
Councilmember Freeman.
I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you. And Councilmember Edge.
Councilmember Edge is excused for this evening. Her father has had a heart attack and is in the hospital. So prayers going out to Mary and her family. Which brings up the ceremonial items. I am at this point going to, I'm sorry, Attorney Mall, can you please take us out of our special meeting? I apologize.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the City Council went into closed session at 5 o'clock. Two matters were heard, both related to anticipated litigation. No reportable action was taken. Direction was given to legal counsel, and the meeting ended at about 6:02. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Apologies again. Ceremonial items. I would like to ask the council to for a little leeway on this, and if we can push this off until January when Councilmember Edge can join us.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
I said yes.
Thank you. Sorry, we can't see you. Or
I'm
hear you.
sorry. I'm trying to learn a new tablet.
Okay. Thank you. Public comment. Thank you all for that. And again, our prayers go out to Mary and her family. Public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the council on matters not on the agenda. The law does not permit the council action or extended discussion on any item not on the agenda except under special circumstances. If council action is requested, the council may place the matter on a future agenda. Deputy City Clerk, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda?
No, Mayor, I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you very much. Consent items. All matters listed under the consent agenda may be enacted by one motion authorizing actions indicated for those items so designated. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the city council, a city staff member, or a citizen. Approving the affidavit of posting, adopt the minutes of October 19th, 2021, adopt a resolution of the city council of the city of San Juan Bautista proclaiming and reaffirming the existence of a local emergency in the city, adopt an ordinance of the city council of the city of San Juan Bautista for an edible food recovery program in the city of San Juan Bautista, adoption of an ordinance of the city council of the city of San Juan Bautista to increase sewer rates, and waive reading of ordinances and resolutions on the agenda beyond title. Vice Mayor Flores, do you wish to pull any items?
No, none. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
Yes, please. Can I pull item B, the adoption of the minutes for October 19th? I was not at the meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
I don't wish to pull anything at this time. Thank you, though.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comments on pulling agenda items?
Recording in progress.
I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other discussion on B? Besides it being pulled?
Just take a separate vote, I believe, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion on the consent items with the exclusion of B?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Flores,
Aye.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Councilmember Freeman, you're muted. Councilmember Freeman, can you hear us? I know this must be frustrating on your end.
So you can,
Councilmember-
you have a quorum, so you can proceed without the vote.
Thank you very much.
okay,
Uh,
and Mayor Jordan, your vote.
Yes,
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3002 or 002 with council members Freeman and Edge absent.
thank you. Consent item B. It was pulled by Councilmember Friels as he was not in attendance. Vice Mayor Flores, do you have any issue with the minutes?
No, if you need a motion, I make a motion to accept them.
I would second that. We don't have a quorum.
Yes, we do. We got
You
3
do.
people.
You have 3.
We have.
Oh, right, okay, I'm sorry. I second it then.
Right?
Go ahead, sorry, roll call vote.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels is abstaining.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Yes, I think I'm here now.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Councilmember or Mayor Jordan,
Yes,
And Councilmember Edge is absent. With all members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3002, or one absence, one abstention from Councilmember Friels.
Thank you very much. Presentations, proclamations, informational items, and reports. Regional Housing Need Determination presentation by Veronica Lizama of San Benito County COG.
Yes, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Host disabled participation screen. I am trying to share my screen. Can the hosts be disabled? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Just 1 second. Okay. Are you able to see the PowerPoint slides?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, 1 moment. So good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Veronica Lezama with the Council of San Benito County Governments, also referred to as COG. We appreciate the opportunity to present the draft 6th cycle regional housing needs allocation, also referred to as RHNA, for the council's input this evening. So for this presentation, we will be defining the RHNA. We will then go over the role of the state, the region, and the local government agencies responsible for its implementation. The council will also receive an overview of the RHNA timeline, the statutory requirements of the 6th cycle RHNA, the draft RHNA methodology options, and lastly, we would be more than happy to answer any questions that the council may have. So just a little bit of background, since 1969, the state of California housing law has required that all local cities and counties plan to meet the housing needs of their community. This state mandate is called the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA for short. Specifically, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, is the agency responsible for identifying the specific number of housing units for which the region must plan for. Currently, COG is working on developing the 6th cycle RHNA, which covers the 8-year planning period between 2023 and 2031. So for this cycle, the state's allocation to the San Benito region is 5,005 housing units for that 8-year planning period. It's also important to note that local cities and counties are not required to build these units. However, they do need to lay the groundwork by having the proper zoning to streamline the process. So what is the role of the state, regional, and local government agencies in the RHNA process? As noted, the state's primary role is to identify the total number of homes each region in California must plan for. The role of the regional government, in this case, the Council of Governments, or COG, is to allocate a share of that number to the cities of Hollister and San Juan Bautista and the County of San Benito, based on a COG developed methodology with the input from the local agencies. The cities and counties must then update their respective housing element of their general plan and zoning to show how it plans to accommodate its share of the regional housing need. And for the public's benefit, the Council of Governments is the policy board responsible for adopting the RHNA in San Benito County. The board is comprised of 2 representatives from the County Board of Supervisors, 2 members from the Hollister City Council, and 1 representative from the San Juan Bautista City Council. COG board representation from each of the local government agencies ensures that all jurisdictions have a seat at the table when discussing RHNA. In addition, it's also important to highlight that thus far, the Council of Governments has held 2 RHNA planning meetings with the staffs of the county and the 2 cities, and those conversations have not concluded. COG is committed to continuing our collaborative efforts with the local jurisdictional staff. In addition, COG staff presented to the County Board of Supervisors last week, as well as presented to the Hollister City Council last night. And we look forward to hearing from all of our local government agencies on the 6th cycle RHNA. And before going into the RHNA draft allocations, I wanted to briefly go over the project schedule. So in late September of this year, HCD presented COG with its RHNA number. During the months of October through December and into January, COG staff will continue to meet with the local agency staff on the draft RENA numbers. Last Thursday, the COG board provided some preliminary comments on the draft RENA methodology options, which will be presented momentarily. The COG board also directed staff to encourage the cities of Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and the county to write a letter of concern to HCD regarding the 5005 RENA allocation number. The COG board has scheduled a special meeting on January 11th to continue its conversation on the RENA. Then at their regularly scheduled January 20th meeting, the board will then hold a public hearing, approve the RENA preferred methodology, and authorize submittal to HCD for input. So during that time, local agencies may appeal their allocation number to the COG board. If there are no appeals, then the COG board will release the draft RENA for public comment sometime in either March or April. And upon closing of the public comment, the final RENA is then adopted, and local agencies will have up until December of 2023 to update their housing element to reflect the RENA allocation. And at this time, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Beth Jerez, Program Director at PBR, who will be going over the statutory requirements of RENA and the draft methodology options. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here tonight. So there are 5 primary statutory objectives of RENA. What you see on the screen here is an excerpt from state housing statute. And in the interest of being respectful of your time, I won't read all of these word for word. I'll summarize them. The first objective is to increase the mix of housing types in an equitable manner. And you'll note that equity is going to be a theme across all 5 of the primary objectives. Objective 2 is to promote infill development and socioeconomic equity. Again, we see equity as a key objective. Next slide, please. Objective 3 is to improve jobs housing balance, both in total jobs and housing, and also ensuring that there is lower income housing in close proximity to lower income jobs. Objective 4 is to allocate more lower income housing to jurisdictions that have historically had less lower income housing. And objective 5, which is described as affirmatively furthering fair housing, really means addressing historical segregation and inequities. Next slide, please. In addition to the 5 objectives, there are 13 factors that COGS may consider. Now, when HCD staff presents this information, they note that no region in the state has incorporated all 13 factors, but regions may and should consider those that are the most important for their region. And so those include jobs housing relationship, opportunities and constraints to development. And statute is very specific about what opportunities and constraints may or may not be considered as part of this process. Maximizing transit and transportation infrastructure, directing growth toward incorporated areas, loss of assisted housing units, high housing cost burdens, overcrowding, farm worker housing needs, and the needs of college students, housing needs of those experiencing homelessness, units lost during an emergency, greenhouse gas reduction targets, or other factors. Next slide, please. Before we talk about methodology, I wanted to give a little bit of background about the 5th cycle, so the prior cycle of this process. And what you see on the slide here in that far left-hand column is the 5th cycle allocation. So 2,194 units for the region as a whole, 41 of those to the city of San Juan Bautista. Over the course of the RENA period, although jurisdictions don't need to build units, they need to make sure that their housing elements are up to date and plan for places that units could be built. You can see that more than 70% of the planned units were constructed over that period of time. Next slide, please. And in this cycle, again, thinking back to that just over 2,100 units, you'll note that the total allocation for San Benito County region has more than doubled. And that's been the case statewide. Regions have gone up by at least 2 and then sometimes more than 3 times their 5th cycle RENA. Part of that is because of changes in state housing law. So not just at expected population growth in the future, but also trying to, state law now includes some provisions where HCD adds additional units to the 6th cycle to address existing overcrowding and existing low vacancy rates. In addition to the total, HCD produces targets for each region by income level. So in this region, there are 1,110 very low income units, 890 low income units, 947 moderate, and 2,058 above moderate, adding up to 5,005 across all 4 income categories. Next slide, please. And so COG's job is to take that 5,005 units and allocate it to each of the jurisdictions, both total units and units by income category. What you see on the screen here, I'm going to walk through this one in some detail and explain the different factors. I'll walk through the next ones more quickly and then have a comparison slide that sums them all up. So what you see on the screen, the second column that says housing looks at the expected housing unit growth as projected in the AMBAG regional growth forecast, the forecast that's going to be used for transportation infrastructure planning, and was approved by the local city, or sort of overseen by the local city staff at each of the 3 jurisdictions, or the 2 cities and the unincorporated county, and approved by the AMBAG board of directors about a year ago. And it's looking at growth over a 10-year period. So that's the first portion of the allocation. The next portion is based on the job distribution around the county. And what 1,660 units are allocated based on the share of jobs that each jurisdiction has. And then the final piece of the allocation in this plan is based on resiliency. So it's the proportion of a jurisdiction's area not in a high wildfire risk area. Next slide, please. In option B, the proportions across are the same roughly, except there's a smaller share based on housing. In option A, it looked at 10 years of housing growth. In this one, it looks at 5 years of housing growth. And what that does is it weights jobs and resiliency higher, even though their shares look the same. Instead of 1,660 units, it's 3,030 units for jobs. Next slide, please. And in methodology option C, again, it's that 5-year housing, but really shifts the focus toward resiliency. So 1,426 units are allocated countywide based on jobs, and 60% or 2,139 are based on the wildfire risk. And I know that I went through B and C quite quickly, but if you will go to the next slide, we can compare them all side by side. And what you see here is that the biggest shifts across these methods really are in the unincorporated area. So sort of sequentially fewer and fewer units into the unincorporated area across the 3 scenarios. And with that, I will turn it back over to Veronica.
Yes, thank you, Beth. So at this time, we would be more than happy to answer any questions that the council may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Flores, questions, comments, concerns?
No comments. Comments, yes. Thank you so much for your information. A lot of information. No questions.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
No questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
Yes, thank you. I do have a question or two. I'm wondering about the affirmative further fair housing category. How is that being wound into or being used in these options A, B, and C? How is that being figured out?
That's a really good question. So what you're seeing in options A, B, and C are just the total number of units. Affirmatively furthering fair housing can be used either for total or for shifting units across income categories. And right now that's the plan, so that areas that have more areas of high opportunity. And I know that's going to sound a little bit technical. The state HCD has a map of neighborhoods that they consider to be high opportunity, areas with low poverty, high graduation rates, low unemployment rates, those kinds of things. And that map has consistent data statewide for all of neighborhoods. And so what they do when they're assessing whether or not you've met that fifth objective is look at communities, whether it be unincorporated areas or cities that have those pockets of high opportunity, and they expect to see more lower income housing going into those areas. So that's where we're proposing to take the AFFH, that fifth objective into account, is with the income shift, in part because when you look at the socioeconomic status of the three jurisdictions, there's very little difference. The poverty rates are very similar between the unincorporated counties, San Juan Bautista and Hollister. The income levels are fairly consistent. And you can imagine in a region like Skag, there are really deep pockets of poverty and affluence, even just within the city of Los Angeles. San Benito County doesn't have quite the depth of disparity that other regions have. Not that there aren't pockets of wealth and poverty, but looking at the jurisdictions, the jurisdictions aren't very different from one another.
So does that mean we're going to concentrate more on fair housing in our community, or less, as compared to I understand that the three jurisdictions will kind of share the same demographics. So are we going to concentrate more on this than a neighboring city like Salinas or Monterey, or less than Salinas or Monterey? So I'm trying to figure out how it's going to be.
That's a really good question. So all the regional housing needs is done within a community, and so there isn't a comparison to jurisdictions in Monterey County. When HCD came up with those numbers of the different income categories, they've already done that, figuring out how many lower income units they think the entire San Benito County region needs. And so then it's up to COG and with jurisdiction input to say, okay, well, within our three jurisdictions, within the two cities and the unincorporated county, where do we think more lower income housing needs to be? There isn't, at this stage of the process, there isn't a comparison across county boundaries into Salinas or into Santa Cruz.
Thank you. I have one more quick question. I don't know if it's for you or Veronica or both. I know that the one of the categories is vehicle miles traveled, and we're trying to limit air pollution from cars. I'm wondering how that folded into any of the three options.
Also a really good question. I would say that it shows up in a couple of places. It shows up in the jobs factor, because the idea being, if you put housing close to where people work, that should reduce vehicle miles traveled, and with the resilience factor as well. A lot of transportation studies have suggested that the longest travel is, from unincorporated areas into job centers, and so the resilience factor pushes more housing into the two incorporated cities. That said, there has been some. But Veronica, do you want to talk a little bit about what the discussion was at the COG board?
Sure, with regards to the letter.
Well, yeah, the letter and just the idea of shifting more growth out of the unincorporated area to address the infrastructure, but also VMT.
Yes, so when we presented to the County Board of Supervisors They submitted a letter to the COG board, and the COG board had an in-depth conversation. John, you were probably in attendance at that meeting. But basically there was a consensus from all of the COG board directors. So all 5 of them came to a consensus that they would like to see more of the RENA allocation be moved over to the city of Hollister because they do have the sewer infrastructure, and the proximity to housing and jobs is also a factor in there. So that's one of the things that the board is going to be considering at their special meeting on January 11th to provide more specific information as far as the direction that they gave us. So again, emphasizing that, so the 3 options that were presented today, we're going to be meeting with the local jurisdictional staff. We're meeting with Don and Brian, and then we're also meeting with county staff and city of Hollister staff to break down the numbers more. But it's looking like a 4th option is arising that would put a large majority of the housing in the city of Hollister, and that has been, again, the consensus of not only the COG board, but also at last night's City of Hollister council meeting.
Great. My only not concern, but my only question is approximately, I think it's like 65% of all the people who have jobs in San Benito County travel out of San Benito County to get those jobs, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, etc. So I guess the real answer to the question is we need to work to bring more jobs closer into the jurisdictions, period. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, John.
No more questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So our clarification, are you asking us to also draft a letter and join with Hollister and
That was the message that COG staff received from the board of directors. What we offered at last night's city council meeting was for us to share the letter that we've drafted. It's still in legal review, and our consultant's going to be taking a look at it, but we're hoping that that we can share that letter with the cities and the county, and then it would be up to you all whether you wanted to send that off to HCD, or they also requested for the letter to be sent to the offices of Assemblymember Rivas and Senator Caballero. But again, we'll work through Don and Brian to send over the letter, and he can coordinate that effort if you so wish.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment?
Mayor, I see one hand raised. Let's see who it is. Sorry. Yes, it's the telephone number, so I'll ask them to unmute and speak and introduce themselves.
Thank you very much. Welcome. And you have 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. This is Jackie Morris Lopez, San Juan Bautista resident. I'm listening on my phone. I'm traveling back home from King City from work, and I feel this topic is very important. So I'm pulled over in Gonzales at the McDonald's parking lot. So if I cut out, I'm here. But anyway, I listened to a portion of this representation, and thank you, Mayor Jordan and council members. I listened to the presentation last week's Board of Supervisors meeting as well, and there was general consensus that these numbers are very high. And I hear some concern, or not concern, but some questioning by the body here tonight, whether or not you should draft a letter. I'm imploring you as a citizen to draft a letter. This is a no-brainer for me. These numbers are quite high. I understand that the RENA allocation is really, it seems to me by listening to this talk a second time, you don't have input. This is being told to you by the state. And I understand what the speaker did say, that this is not a mandate that you must build the allocated numbers. It's the potential to build by somebody that determined these numbers for you, for us, in essence. But you must show that you have a zone area that you can build. So to me, that's the new catchphrase. It's like changing zoning. That's how things are being built. And I understand there's new housing laws that are very critical. They're driving the RENA numbers. They're driving the infill. They're driving the new laws with the ADU. My question to the two presenters that are there. So my comment is yes, council members, yes, Mayor Jordan, please write a letter. It is critical that you do this. We do not have jobs in San Juan Bautista. I don't see how this is reasonable to have the push to build in the unincorporated areas because they would have to commute. People that are in lower income may not have 2 cars. They may have working adults, but they don't have an adequate transportation. We don't have public transportation that can go into the unincorporated areas. So the reasoning that these speakers are giving is just does not match with what's being mandated or how the methodology is determining where the housing is put. It just does not make sense to me as I'm listening to it a second time. I feel like we're forced to meet the state's requirements and their recommendations since you all have not had any input. I did hear the RMA manager, the newly appointed, Mr. Thomas. He had great concern that with these numbers, and he could not recommend this or really. He had great concern because he said we don't have the infrastructure. He was concerned about the water and the sewer. You can all play back the meeting and listen to his comments. I'm just sort of paraphrasing. My other concern or comment for the two ladies and for the rest of you that are sitting there, the council members, why is it that San Juan Bautista only has one representative? I feel like we have such a large area that has potential and the push to grow that we need another seat on that COG board. We have Councilman.
I'm sorry, your
Flores,
time
we
is
have
up. It's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other hands?
Sure. But no members in the public, no.
Thank you very much. City Manager Don Reynolds, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify with Veronica. We did send a letter from the county. The county wrote, and I think it was the initial letter looking for that fourth option. And then there's a second letter, perhaps, Veronica, that we might draft to HCD. So I want to make sure the council understands tonight's presentation is there's 4 options, 3 options on the table and 1 pending. And I think it would be good to know, or we're just seeing these for the first time and talking about them for the first time, but we have much of an opportunity to send a letter to COG as the county did saying, we like option 2, or we like option 1, or we don't want to build any houses, just dog houses and bird houses. Will we have a chance to, and is there a deadline? And with that in mind, maybe the council has some thoughts on the different choices you've given us. I was hoping we could discuss, and then maybe Brian has some input as well, our
Don,
assistant city manager.
Don, if I can just add, so we did present option A to the subcommittee composed of staff from each of the local agencies. And then we're scheduled to have another meeting on, I believe it's January 6th. I'll have to double check the date. And so that's in the books, and we're going to be meeting again with local agency staff to go over the fourth option. So the staff will have another chance to talk about the allocation before it goes to the special meeting on the 11th to the COG board for just solely discussion. And then it's not until the 20th of January that the board will make select a preferred methodology option at that time.
Veronica, if we don't express an opinion favoring one of these options over another, then basically the decision would happen without our feedback. I think it would be good for us
Absolutely.
to give the COG some feedback on our preference here.
Yes.
And if there's a fourth option being created, that we include that.
Absolutely.
This is not a good time to be silent.
No, thank you.
And we have We have emphasized the importance in the methodology of focus or a focus on jobs, housing balance, in particular employment, and a responsive methodology to our anticipated growth rate. So those are two relative to infrastructure in particular. And so those are two areas that we feel are very important to have reflected in the methodology, in particular because San Juan Bautista is relatively employment poor. New subdivisions and an expanded growth rate in residential areas is a concern. As Councilmember Freeman mentioned, it has a big effect on vehicle miles traveled and our ability to show in our housing element or general plan that we're responsive to that concern. So we look forward to more conversation with the COG staff.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Beth, for joining us. We really appreciate this presentation. Lots to think about here.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Fiscal year 2021 audit presentation by Ryan Jolly. Ryan, we can't hear you. You look like you're unmuted. Now you're muted. Now, please sit by. Oh, did we just lose him?
Was signing back in, which is smart. So as Ryan comes back in, he's got an audio check going on.
Is that any better?
That's perfect,
Very
Ryan.
much.
Thank you very much. The audit is really important to us, more so than ever, as we look to seek financing for our big capital improvement projects. And Ryan will speak tonight as to the outcome of the audit, and Wendy's online as well. But we've been reviewing it carefully. We had a great conversation earlier this afternoon with our financial advisor, who's going to be working with the USDA and the State Revolving Loan Fund and other funding sources for capital improvements, and sharing the good news from this audit. So with that, I'll let Ryan share his screen if he wants, or just present the highlights in our audit this year. Thank you.
Okay. Does everyone have a copy of the audit in front of them, or should I share my screen?
Can you please share your screen for the
Okay.
audience? We
Yeah.
are on Facebook as well. Thank you.
I think the host needs to make me or allow it.
Oh, yes, I had your past one was permitted, not the new one. Okay.
Okay, are you seeing the financial statement there?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, as I mentioned, thank you for having me here tonight, and I'm here to present the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021 for the city of San Juan Bautista. Just beyond the table of contents is the independent auditor's report. Once again, we issued an unqualified opinion, meaning that we found the city's books and records to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So once again, this is a clean audit opinion for the city. Just going down beyond that is the first set of financial statements. This is for the whole city as a whole, with all assets and liabilities being reflected, both for the governmental funds and also the enterprise funds, which are your water and sewer. And so this gives you a full picture, including capital assets and all related debt and other assets included here. The next statement is a it's a little bit different presentation, but it basically is the profit and loss of the city on a full accrual basis as well. So it's showing depreciation expense. It's showing you know, everything that's included on a full accrual basis, where on the next set of financial statements, we're looking more at a modified accrual basis, which is just obligations that are due basically in 60 days after the fiscal year end. So overall, you can see that the city increased on the governmental activities, 1.3 million in net position increase. And for the enterprise funds, there was a net decrease of 5.7 million. When we get down to those individual statements, I'll highlight a little bit more on the enterprise funds. Following this is the only major fund for the city is the general fund. It's the only one that meets certain criteria, looking at its total assets and revenues. And so that's why it's presented here. The non-major governmental funds are presented in the back of the financials and then are rolled forward up to this column here. Going down though, just on page 7 here is the general fund presentation on the modified accrual basis. And this is where you can see that overall, the general fund had a net decrease of $92,000. A big part of this is due to the capital outlay. A lot of that expense in the current year was due to the 3rd Street improvements. So despite that big expense, the general fund still basically broke even for the year. Also, just to mention, overall taxes and sales tax actually increased for the current year over the prior year, despite COVID. The city still realized an increase in property taxes and sales taxes, which helped the general fund in the current year. Going down now to the enterprise funds, page 9 is the balance sheet for the enterprise funds. Nothing new or out of the ordinary there, but I'll go down to the page 10, which is the income statement for the enterprise funds. And here you'll see an overall decrease of $229,000 in the water fund, and in the sewer fund, a decrease of $343,000. Even though there was a $572,000 decrease, if you look up above in the middle of the page right there, there's $685,000 of depreciation expense. So this is a non-cash item, which is recording the usage of the assets in these funds over its useful life. So although we saw a loss in the enterprise funds, most of it is attributed to the depreciation expense. Also in the current year, there was a one-time settlement expense of $313,000. And so that's also a one-time expense that was incurred by the water fund this year. Going down the statement of cash flows, you can get an idea of the beginning cash balance for the enterprise funds versus the end of year cash balance. The water fund had a net decrease of $130,000 and the sewer fund had a net decrease of $502,000. This is accounting for any capital assets that were purchased out of these funds, and also debt service payments are also being reflected here in the overall beginning to end of year cash balances. Following that are the notes to the financial statements. This just gives you some more detailed explanation of what the different asset and liability accounts are, and some definitions and accounting terms on what classifies as what. Nothing new in this fiscal year, and no new note disclosures this fiscal year. When we get down here to note 3, we start to get into more detailed explanation of what makes up your cash balances. And then also, as we go down, we get into a more detailed explanation of the capital asset activity for the year, what additions occurred, and also the related depreciation related to the capital assets of the city, both for the governmental activities and the business type activities. And then also for long-term debt, a schedule here showing the current year retirement of debt, and then following that, a footnote explaining what the debt was incurred for, and also that the city was in compliance with its debt covenants for the year, and also a schedule showing what the future debt service looks like for this for the 2015 enterprise revenue bonds. Beyond that, just some other footnotes on some other activity related to the other major one is the advance from the general fund to the water and sewer fund. This is being repaid back to the general fund according to an amortization schedule. And so that those annual payments are occurring to retire that advance. Also a schedule here showing what interfund transfers were approved between the general fund and the other funds. And then going down, there's some supplemental schedules. One of them is just the general fund showing the budget to actual items for the year. This shows what actually occurred versus what the original and final budget numbers were for the fiscal year. And so you can see where some of the variances were from the original budget to the final actual numbers. And then lastly, as I mentioned, the remaining non-major funds are presented here in more detail. These are your various street funds, impact fees. You can see public safety under the COPS grant. There's about 6 of them there that are presented and rolled up to that first page we discussed. All of those funds are operating as intended. And then lastly, there's one more opinion letter where this is where we identify if there's any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal controls of the city. This is where we look at proper segregation of duties and looking at the major transaction classes, making sure that there are proper segregation of duties so that no one person controls a transaction class from start to finish. And so once again, there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses reported. And then finally is a management report issued to the city council, letting you know that we didn't have any difficulties in completing the audit, didn't have any disagreements with management, and there were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements identified. And just some general disclosures there, so no exceptions to those items either. So once again, a clean audit for the city. And we once again are thankful for the opportunity we have to work with the city and the city staff. They did a great job. We did it remotely again this year, and they did a great job getting us the information we needed and also getting it to us timely so that we could get this quickly turned around before the end of the year. So with that, I'm available for any questions that you have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Vice Mayor Flores, questions, comments, concerns?
No question. Thank you so much for your report. A lot of good information there.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels?
No questions. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Freeman? Councilmember Freeman?
Okay, yep. Thank you for the great report. I'm glad to see the balances are up in all categories and makes me feel good. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan, and whomever else assisted you in your office for preparing this. Thanks to the city for helping out and providing info in a timely manner. I know this is a daunting task when you have other things to do. And when you hire somebody to do a job and then you have to go out and collect all of the data for that report. I appreciate that Ryan is giving you all an A+ on that. an awesome, clean review, clean audit again. Thank you all. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns from the public?
Mayor, I don't see any hands raised at this time. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Ryan, thank you again. Happy holidays. We appreciate you and the work that you have done for us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good night.
Treasurer's report and monthly financial statement. Wendy. I'm guessing you're up on this one. We are experiencing technical difficulties tonight. Hey, Wendy, welcome.
Hey, Wendy, welcome. Hi there. Hi there. I didn't know that I was going to present this. I was here for the audit, but let me bring up the treasurer's report. Good evening. Let's see here.
Unless Michelle is waiting in the wings.
No, she's not.
Okay.
So you have the report in front of you as at the 4-month period ended October 31st, representing 4 months of this city's fiscal year, or 33% of the fiscal year. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yes, this is great.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Great. Okay. General fund revenues are running at 25% for the year to date. Correspondingly, general fund expenditures are at 23% for the year to date, which is a net effect of a positive change in general fund balance of 52,000. Keep in mind, our funds ebb and flow based on the source and origin. We have some streamlined funding from our sales tax that we can expect monthly. Other revenues we project, such as our property taxes, where we'll see those funds come at the end of this month. So we'll just recognize an accrual for those. So I'm not seeing any red flags in the general fund at this time. Water enterprise fund revenues are running at 33%, spot on with the year to date. Expenses are at 36%. The net effect is a positive change in the water enterprise fund of 198,000 for the year to date. And this is net of depreciation. Sewer enterprise fund revenues are running at 39% as opposed to 33%. And expenses are at 32%, running right in line with what we would expect at this time of the year. The net effect is a positive change in the enterprise fund of 183,000 for the year to date. Overall, all the special revenue funds and internal service funds, everything's running in line with anticipation. So at this time, I don't have anything to piece out to you of concern or beyond our expectations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
That's okay.
Vice Mayor Flores, anything? Please unmute yourself.
No, nothing on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
No questions. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Wendy. Great report. Appreciate it. No real questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Have a great, oh, don't leave me yet. Do we have any public comment?
No, I don't see any hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, Wendy. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. We appreciate you.
Thank you, and happy holidays to you as well. Bye.
Yeah. City Manager's report. City Manager Don Reynolds, you are up.
Thank you. I have a few slides. Hold on, I'll bring them up for us. Okay, here we go. Here and there. And cancel. Share.
Here, here's one of these.
I don't want to look back.
Councilmember Freeman, can you please mute your mic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, wrong set. I'm sorry. There it is, hiding down there. Okay. City manager's report. We've been busy, of course, dating back to our last council meeting in November. I have about 10 slides to run through that include community development. We did get an RFP for the city council chamber upgrade out in the last couple of weeks. It's due back February 1st. We sent it to 5 vendors and I have had 2 good conversations with 2 really good vendors. So I'm excited about getting our city council chamber upgrade moving forward soon. I really hit a wall looking for a good vendor to build our council chamber so we could reopen in a hybrid situation. So I'm feeling very good about that. We also were able to move forward a little bit at a time on the community hall acoustics. I sent off a request to review the 2017 study that was done. That's a very extensive study and it requires a lot of work to the building. So I'm hoping that I can get that project running up and built well before June 30th. We've been working with a firm called Regional Government Services, and they are retired and experienced municipal professionals, directors, city managers, and they can come in and help us out with human resources, purchasing, and other vital services that we need to help support our administration. So I look forward. We recently signed a small agreement, $10,000 for them to help us with human resources in a number of ways, everything from policies and benefits to recruitment. So that's really good news. Reviewing different municipal accounting software with RGS. The name of the company we're looking at is MIP. We had a demo on that, Wendy and I, last week. And with that would go a new chart of accounts so that we could move away from the private nonprofit use of QuickBooks to an account that is explicitly made for fund accounting systems the government uses. We're reviewing all of the HR functions, work recruitments, workers' comp, and written policies and processes again with RGS. We're expanding our contract with data services. Data services has been processing our parking tickets. So they're the ones that would help us with collection and reporting to the DMV when citations aren't paid. But I've learned that the administrative citation processing side doesn't have a backbone like that. And we have no way, we have no administrative capability of sending collection notices and having someone actively engage with the people we write administrative citations to for fireworks, for COVID, and for other administrative violations. So we're working on building that system using this company called. So we're working on backing up that system so that we can process and even have administrative hearings for our administrative citations. That was a big hole. It's really going to help us with enforcement. I don't know how the city's gotten along without that. So that's a really important tool that we're working on. The budget calendar is here, and I'll share this in a separate document. But as we approve the audit tonight, we'll be looking at the January 18th regular meeting for our mid-year budget review. That's a little bit sooner than we did last year, and that's good to get off to an early start. So we're glad the audit was done early as well. That allows us time for strategic planning and perhaps 2 sessions. I was targeting February 22nd and March 8th town hall meetings to set the goals for fiscal year 22-23. And then we would work with staff and contractors and consultants to draft our budget in March and April. And then on April 19th, hopefully introduce our draft budget. That would give the public and the community plenty of time to review before we schedule workshops in May, and then come forward at a special meeting June 14th to adopt a final budget. And I'll have to confess, I'm putting this date out there because I have a special family vacation planned the third week in June this year up to Seattle. So hope the council is able to meet at a special meeting June 14th. So with that, quick update on our parks. We had our pre-construction meeting on Rudy Park last week. We approved the specifications for the prefab restroom, which include the planning commission's approval and their set of plans. We're ordering the restroom this month to be built, and it should arrive in mid-March and be done by April 30th. That's the goal on Rudy Park. So it may not look like we're doing much, but we are. It just takes a while to get the restroom put together. Pardon me. Franklin Circle Park. We had the pre-construction meeting this afternoon. And we will plan a meeting with the neighborhood and residents before construction begins, because as construction begins, a fence will be put up around Franklin Circle, around the island there that will become the park. And that's going to take up parking and it may cause some inconvenience. So we want to be sure to meet with the neighborhood before we start construction. And leaving time for that meeting after the holidays means that we would break ground on the Franklin Circle Park the second or third week in January. So the contracts are signed and the parts are being ordered, and we're moving forward with that. There were some special order play equipment and things for that park that are going to take as many as 22 weeks to arrive. So we want to get those things ordered as soon as possible. Have the completion of the park meet the delivery date of some of the furniture that's going to go out there. I shared with the council new signs at city parks for upping the enforcement for the leash law and the dog defecation law. Dogs are not permitted to run at large or be unleashed at city parks. We had a member of the Public Safety Committee report about 3 weeks ago that they knew of someone who had been bit, and we're asking if we could increase enforcement for that. So we've made some new signs. We've worked with the school district at the soccer field, and we hope to improve the situation with enforcement of dog defecation and dogs not on leashes. Wastewater, I don't have a spot on the agenda for wastewater, so I've got a few quick slides on what's happening with wastewater and water. We've had town hall meetings. We've had 6 of them in total, but most recently, the end of November, and on December 14th, we accepted our new rate study. So we're moving forward now, preparing 90% plans for submittal to the state for funding. If you can submit a 90% plan to the state SRF fund, your chances of being funded are much greater than they would be at 30 or 65%. So we're really happy that Stantec, our engineering firm, is that far along designing our force main to Hollister. We have updated and approved the final preliminary engineers report, and that was really important because with the help of our municipal advisor, we have a preliminary engineers report now that matches the financing and the rate study that we did. And that was part of that work that's so critical to making them all tie together. So when the USDA receives within the next week or so our rate study and our PER, it'll all make sense to them. So that was really good and hard work. It's hard to match up all these technical documents for these grant applications. We filed the notice of determination for the CEQA approval we received on December 14th, the mitigated neg deck. We met with the city of Hollister on February 1st to discuss new permit limits. The State Water Board has issued draft new permit limits for Hollister, and those will impact the quality of water that we send them. They also brought to our attention that they're implementing a pre-treatment program for commercial and industrial users. We met with County RMA in the past few weeks to talk about the route so we could finish our preliminary design report. And that route now will have to stay all in the county roads and not be able to use a shoulder. So we're looking at ways of finding other funds, gas tax and other funds to help deal with the higher cost of the asphalt that will be required. We had a big meeting. I had a meeting with Taylor at their headquarters in November. And from that meeting, we scheduled and planned a meeting with Taylor and Coke Farms last Monday. And much to my chagrin, on the 10th, I learned that that meeting had been canceled by Coke Farms. So I got on the phone that afternoon with them and talked to them. And then for about an hour on the phone with Dale Coke on Monday and said, why aren't we meeting? What's the deal? So he wanted to know more about what we were doing. He didn't believe our project was moving forward, frankly. And so we have now talked several times with Dale, and we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 to look at the as-built plans for the lift station, the Coke lift station, and talk about repurposing it for the commercial users to use to join into our force main going down San Justo Road. So that's important because now I believe I have all three, Taylor, Coke, and Trulieve, on board for our plan for our pipeline as designed. So we also have new reports starting in September, taken every 2 weeks on volume and water quality. This has been really helpful to show that it's not clear what the definition of domestic water is. So we have an agreement with Coke and the others to send us only domestic water, but what is domestic? And so in meeting with the EPA and the Water Board, not the penalty division, but the permitting division, we had a pretty incredible meeting last week where we had the EPA and we had the water permit folks for Hollister and the water permit folks for San Juan Bautista, two different kinds of water board permits, all talking about our industrial users and how they would be permitted going now and moving towards the future. And they recommended that we go back and we've developed a survey for each commercial user to find out how many employees they have, how many shifts per day they work, and whether they have locker rooms and showers, or is it just toilets and sinks, to find out exactly what defines domestic wastewater for each one of them, because each one of those businesses is unique out there. For example, Taylor processes lettuce, they wash it and put it in bags. Coke does not. The Coke produce is put right in boxes in the field and then comes into the Coke plant. Is nothing more than a large ice machine. They get ice down and they leave. So each of the different industrial users has a different use. And so that's what we're getting towards, defining what domestic wastewater is. So we know when they've violated or when they're in compliance with their water. So right now, I'll tell you the water quality reports are fairly good, even with chloride and sodium. The chloride is running a little higher than our permit, but not that far off the charts as it was, say, a year ago, July, when we were shocked to find out how bad that water was coming from the Coke lift station. So it's much better. The problem is the source of the water. The problem is they're pulling out groundwater that's harder than the water we use. We're pulling out 700, 800 total dissolved solids, and Trulieve tells me their best well pulls out 1,400 milligrams per liter of total dissolved solids. So that's the real key to bringing our industrial users in line, and they want to be in line, and they have to be in line to be part of our system. So they're aware of that. On the collection of our sewer water, we've had a constant struggle with what I refer to as legacy laterals. We have many of our older properties share a lateral. For example, the historic Adobe and the Casa Rosa share a lateral that goes to 4th Street. At 205 on the Alameda, they share laterals there, and only one lateral leads those two parcels to join our main line. And we've had a special focus on Washington and 4th, where we have some pretty strange laterals in the public right of way that don't belong to the city. So, our code says that the property owner is responsible for the lateral as it comes to the pipe. And so we'll help when we can, but we've also started, if someone needs a camera and we have a camera, we're going to charge them on an hourly basis to find out what the problem is. And if it is definitely the private property owner's problem, then they'll get an invoice from us for helping them out. But in the most part, that's that's just something that I wanted to bring to the council's attention. You're probably totally aware of that, but it's something that we work with on a weekly basis, is helping property owners with their laterals. With the import of water, we're scheduling a meeting with the San Benito County Water District to review cost estimates in January. Their staff is currently reviewing them, and they should be ready to share them after the holidays. At that point, we would draft a water rate study in February. So that is yet to come. It's on the horizon, and be careful to share that with the community, and much the way we did with our wastewater program. We have been participating in the regional water master planning process, which is a fascinating study of the whole region of new sources for water and what those water quality limitations would be. Interestingly enough, they're looking for TDS much below 1,000 milligrams per liter to import into our community between now and 2035 and even further out. I believe Councilmember Freeman and Mayor Jordan are part of the governance committee, and they are scheduled to meet January 12th at 5 p.m. And I'm going to be presenting a lot of this information at that meeting, at that governance committee meeting when that occurs. We still have lots of funding available to help our residents with their water bills and wastewater bills. We have someone coming to the library on Thursdays at 11 to meet with people. Since we last spoke, we've had 3 or 4 people sign up, but that's still just a drop in the bucket. We could probably sign up 20 or 30 people. A family of 4 has a median income of less than $80,000 a year, then you're eligible. So I know we have families like that, and we can pay back to 2 or 3 months. So I just wanted to put a word out and encourage the community to participate in the utility assistance. We'll be sending the notices out again as the council requested in November. We'll be sending information and notices out, advertising our utility assistance program with the January billing. So we're preparing to do that now, send those notices out in the next couple of weeks. Referring to some other projects and other issues in town, Meritage and Rancho Vista developments, the roundabout is moving forward, albeit slowly. We have run into a few oddities out there, not matching the expectations of locations of pipes and so forth, but things are coming together with the roundabout. We have been inspecting and assessing the storm drain system, and there are some concerns with that, as Councilmember Friels pointed out at the November meeting, especially the pipe that goes where the adult exercise equipment is. It's pretty much 90% filled with silt and dirt. It needs to be cleaned out. So our city engineer came back on board after being gone for a few months, and we went out there after the storms, and I showed her the pictures that we have, and we're following up with with Meritage to at least clean that up and clean it out and maintain it so that it works the way it was designed. We're also reviewing condition compliance related to the northern easement buffer. There's supposed to be 8 feet of easement between the back of the homes on the northern side and the Island Ranch. And there's also a condition in the environmental mitigation measures that there are 2 trees per parcel planted along that buffer. So we're following up and making sure before we release any bonds, the council approves release of any bonds, that we have all these conditions tied up. So that's what's happening with Meritage and Rancho Vista right now. The COVID emergency status is frightening, to be honest with you. The new variant is spreading incredibly fast, and we're watching states around the country reverting back to old measures. At least that we have mandated in our state that we wear masks when we're indoors, and so everyone is asked to work with caution again. I saw a really good PowerPoint presentation by Dr. Fauci last night. He was presenting at the American Press Club, and he basically suggested that if you're vaccinated, if your family's vaccinated, that he said you don't have any concerns getting together with vaccinated family members for the holidays. But there are so many variables, and I know we've all experienced it. So cousins and nephews playing with neighbors and neighbors test positive, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to continue to stay careful with COVID. And to that end, I sent a policy around the city staff that should you become ill with flu-like symptoms, that you please get tested before returning to work and come into work with a negative test before you can start work again. And we're going to look at resources for that. You can get into Walgreens and Hollister pretty fast and get a 24-hour result. The employee's insurance will pay for that, so there should be no out of pocket. But we're going to set up a policy that if our employees are not vaccinated, that they be tested. So we're heading in that direction. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has them. We saw an article in Bonito Link recently, maybe today, about the San Benito County Congressional District splitting from the Monterey County and Santa Cruz County to more of a longitudinal north-south district. It's almost like 3 layers now. The way it's drafted, there would be a coastal district, and then our district would be connected as far up as Cupertino and north and south, but not to Monterey County. Our demographics would change dramatically. I know some of the council members have been following this. This is some feedback I got from Congressman Panetta's office, a little different than what I read in Bonito Link today, that the final draft will be submitted by the California Citizens Redistricting Commission December 7th, and that it will be subject to legal challenge, and we'll have to survive all those challenges before it becomes law. Real quick, in terms of community development, just one slide. We sent our accessory dwelling unit ordinance to HCD. It went into effect November 16th. And we have the LEAP grant, the HCD grant money paying for that $50,000 study. That's great work by Brian and our planning commission and everyone else involved. The UGB, Urban Growth Boundary Committee, looking at the sphere of influence, reconvened November 10th. The committee recommended a 2-tiered sphere of influence, much as Councilmember Edge was recommending last November, that we have green belts and so forth set aside, and then potential development parcels closer to that. So we'll present that proposal to the Planning Commission and the City Council in January and February, and have meetings with the county thereafter in LAFCO to be scheduled in early 2022. So that project is moving forward. Thank you for everyone's help in that. Related to that is our SB2 grant. We're reevaluating the scope of work because I looked at a planning area that may or may not conflict with the sphere of influence goals. So we're trying to get the 2 projects in line. And so once we get finalized on a sphere of influence with the Planning Commission and City Council, then we can begin to hammer out some of the work that the SB2 grant will pay for. We only have 9 months, despite getting a 1-year extension, to get that specific plan work done. We want to, as Brian said earlier, connect jobs to housing. So we want to include the industrial parcels that are zoned on San Juan Hollister Road with any housing that might be considered on the other side of 156. So that's the focus of the SB2 grant study, and there's more details to follow. Active transportation plan is something we've been talking about for some time. We have now selected a firm. We interviewed 4 or 5 different firms back in November. We selected one of them to come forward, the Blue Zone Group, and the city and the local government commission staff are ready to move forward right after the council approves the contract in January. So we're going to come in January 17th with a proposed scope of work for an active transportation plan in the city, and we'll have robust community engagement planned thereafter. So what are we planning for? We're planning a trail system for walking and biking, an assessment of our sidewalks and accessibility through our city by bikers and walkers, connecting all of our assets, just as we heard from the Strategic Planning Committee, a trail that connects the De Anza Trail and the El Camino Real and the Luck Park and Abbey Park and Washington Street Underpass, and et cetera. Then the economic development, the EDCAC has an 11-member economic development advisory committee. And these meetings are expected to occur in January, and we'll have a technical advisory committee to go with that. That's later in the agenda tonight. And then current development activities include a property boundary question that came up with Casa Rosa and the owner behind Casa Rosa on Franklin Street. And then they are conducting a survey to straighten that out between the two private property owners. The 205 Alameda project that JJ Berger proposed demolition and construction of a new mixed-use building was tabled by the Planning Commission and is coming back here later in January. So we're working to get a peer review on that historic study that was done. And the hearings will be rescheduled when the revised report and peer review are complete and available for review. And then the Lang Street development, the Orchards subdivision is ongoing. We're at final comments with them and they'll have a completed application, I'm sure, within the next month. So that's a 20 unit development on the other side of 156 between the end of Lang Street and the Alameda. So that's an update on our developments. And lastly, just an update, the library will be open through the holidays for the most part, except for December 23rd through December 25th. And then it'll be closed on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. City offices, as we have for the last 2 years, will be closed between Christmas and New Year's. So we'll be closed starting December 23rd and we'll reopen January 3rd after the New Year's holiday. So I know that's a lot of information. So I have passed this to Rochelle to post on the website for us, as well as my monthly article to the Mission Village Voice and status report from our community development person. Those will all be available online if people want to review them later. They'll be at our website. Okay, sorry for such a long report. We've been busy.
Thank you very much for that. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Mayor Flores.
No questions. Good report there, Don. Thank you. A lot of information.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
Well, heck of a report, a lot of work this week or this month, Don. Thank you. With City Hall being closed, just the normal voicemail contacts, I guess about the only thing would be emergencies for Public Works.
Right, and a lot of the Public Works is working. They'll be on duty anyway, so they have to be.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you. Great report, Don. Lots of great information. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You spoke a little bit about redistricting. I actually had a meeting with Congresswoman Lofgren, and she assured me that she will be working very closely with Congressman Panetta. Her and Jimmy go back way back, and they will be working off of each other for quite some time and continue the relationship that they have. So things to look forward to, I suppose. Lots of info. Thank you very much for all of this. Lots of questions answered. I hope all enjoy the holiday week, or get an opportunity to enjoy some of it anyway. Questions, comments, or concerns from the public? Do we have any hands raised?
Yes, we had Jackie Morris Lopez.
Thank you very much. Jackie, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I am pulling into San Juan. So now I'm on Zoom meeting on my phone. Thank you, Dawn. That was a very extensive, thorough report. You've been very busy. I heard a lot of good information that I had questions on. And I think one comment that I wanted to make in regards to the sewer treatment plan. And I believe it was Councilman Freeman that brought this up at the public hearing. I had commented on my concerns about the cost, and he had brought up that he understood but there is a grant writer that the city hired. So my comment or request is that full transparency, he said this was a great grant writer. I think that we need to have some follow-up, at least monthly, to find out where this grant writer is in the process of acquiring funding to defray the cost, which will trickle down to us, the residents. My other comment was you talked about hiring a lot of consultants or outsourcing services. One of them I heard was HR. I'm not sure how many employees we have total and what sort of services you are talking about in terms of HR, because I was under the impression that the city manager and the city council had some HR responsibilities. So as a resident paying for the salary, I'm not quite sure what that all entails. My comment is, since you're upgrading and doing a lot of outsourcing or getting in, kind of bringing us to the 21st century, when are we going to do something about being able to pay our water bill online without taking a $10 hit? And I understand a couple of years ago that you guys were looking at that. I think this was pre-Don Reynolds. That would be something I think for 2022 that we should really get on board. We have a lot more people living in the city. I'm getting back into town from my job at 7:45. I may not have time to drop my envelope off there. So being able to have that accessibility and convenience to pay online, I mean, we really need that now. And thank you for the report, and everybody have a wonderful Christmas and happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Reports from city council representatives to regional organizations and committees. Vice Mayor Flores. Please, there you go.
Yeah, I attended a couple of meetings. I attended a CMAP meeting. Leadership Council dealt with homeless issue, and some of the Board of Supervisors meeting. That's it.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
The only meeting I had was the public safety. Do you want to cover that one?
No, go ahead. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. We had a presentation from the police chief and the city manager from King City on their camera program, their CCTV. Impressive program, impressive turnaround, and with their crime rate in King City because of cameras. Actually, I was really shocked on how much crime there actually was down in King City until that happened. It's promising, and we have somebody who's going to help us with it, it sounds like. And then as far as the, let's see, we talked a little bit about where I got a little grumpy about dogs not being able to run around the parks, unleashed dogs. We talked about a little bit about that. We had a report from level 1. Basically, they went over their kind of their day-to-day reports. And their difficulty with, handwritten type reports, and hopefully they're moving towards, it sounds like they're moving towards more of a computer-based program, which would be great for them, I'm sure. And what else we talked about? I don't know, forget, but I think that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. So, and that's about it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilman Freeman.
Yes, thank you. I'll work from the latest meeting backwards. So last week we had an integrated waste management meeting. We had a presentation on ecotourism programs and reducing plastics in those ecotourism programs. It was mainly aimed at the hospitality and food and beverage segment of our economy. It was very good. I think it will work out in the long run. Short run, we're going to have to kind of get used to it and get over some humps here. And then the second half of the meeting, we went over the budget for the agency, which is not the most thrilling thing in the world. So going on, next meeting I had in the same week, but on Wednesday, we had an AMBAG meeting, and we discussed the exact same thing we discussed tonight, which was RENA methodology and RENA numbers. It's a little different because we have land use lawyers phoning in, we have YIMBY people, which means yes in my backyard, and they're pro being able to split the lot and having a duplex and ADUs. They're pro anything to get increased housing. And so that was that. And then quite a while ago, we had an intergovernmental meeting. I don't know if you want to take that one, Mayor, or I can give a brief report.
Nope. Sorry, no, go ahead, continue, please. Thank you.
Okay. We received a report from the superintendent of the San Benito High School district, and that was Sean Tannenbaum, and he reported that his high school is now full, and they're starting to look for and think about building a second high school in Hollister. However, they have bonding issues, and so getting the money for that second high school is going to be their challenge. And then we had, and that was most of the meeting, and I'll let you take the rest.
Thank you very much. Gavilan College did present also at that meeting. They are in the process of building a new campus, starting out small first. I think there were 8 classrooms in it. The difficulty with both of these schools is that they're starting from ground zero. There is no infrastructure, so infrastructure will have to be built. And that's why the initial price tag is higher than what I think we all anticipated to hear on that. But both are definitely needed for the community. And we didn't have a water meeting. It's next month. Anything else? No, we're good there. Okay. Action items. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista acknowledging Hollister Fire Department to perform the inspection of certain occupancies required annually pursuant to sections 13146.2 and 13146.3 of the California Health and Safety Code and authorize the acceptance of Senate Bill number 1205. Welcome, Fire Marshal Charlie Bedoya.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for having me tonight. Yeah, I bring this before you. It is back in 2018, Senate Bill 1205 was adopted, where it mandates that, and it was actually brought upon because of the Ghost Ship fire, where they needed to have some accountability for some inspections, and it was brought about because of that. So from there, it made it mandatory that every year that we're supposed to inspect all educationals, residentials, and institutionals, and then report back to our respective boards. And we report back whether we get our inspections done or we didn't get our inspection done and why we did it. So I'm here to report that we did get all 3 of our schools taken care of, both of our hotels, and 19 of the apartments taken care of. But with that, we get our list from the assessor's office. So we've kind of found that there's a little more, how would we say it, legal non-compliant residential units. And we will be going through there on foot throughout January and starting downtown inspections. And we're hopefully finding these other residential units, apartments from duplexes on up that weren't on our list, to be able to find those and get those safety checked on those. So if you have any questions, and we did do 100% of what we need to do in all 3 agencies, the City of Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and the County of San Benito. So it was well over 500 inspections that we started in October and finished them in November.
Wow, amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns from the council? Vice Mayor Flores.
No concerns, but thank you, Charlie. Great work.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels?
Just one question. Charlie, did the Did this Senate bill, this 1205, did they supply any funding for you for education or like training and equipment and all that stuff?
They didn't provide any funding, but we can recover costs. So for the last couple of years, we've kind of been sending out letters saying, hey, there is going to be costs associated with our inspection. So that way we're able to get that out there. So we are sending out letters when we're completing them. So everyone should be getting them out pretty soon. But what they said is you either do them, and if you don't do them, then we'll send our people in there and then we'll charge you to do them. So no funding with that. They just said, get them done.
Okay. Now, on your letters, do you make sure people know that this is, coming down from Sacramento?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I could get you a copy of I could get you guys a copy of the letter too. I'll send you what we're sending the resident or the owners of the units also.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that the residents knew where you're coming from and didn't, start throwing rocks at you because,
Yeah.
and it. So
for the most part, people embrace us. We don't go and interrupt people at their residence, but we do let them know, hey, the owners do need to check the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors on their own. But a lot of times people will come on in, embrace us, and tell us, hey, can you check this out? Can you check that out? So we've had some really great experiences out there with the community. So they embrace us.
Yeah, and I guess a positive thing is you get a little pre-planning in, you get an idea where the buildings lay out and all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
but thank you, Charlie. A lot of work. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Freeman?
Thank you, Charlie. Sounds, with all you just told Scott and the rest of us, sounds like you're doing a great job and I really appreciate it. Fire safety is critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to finding out how many non-compliant units that we have around here. Nice job. Thank you to you and your staff for all that they do for us and all of these inspections. We really appreciate you all.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from the public? Any hands raised?
No, Mayor, I don't see any hands raised. Oh, wait, hold on. Jackie Morris Lopez.
Thank you. Welcome, Jackie. I hope you're safely sound in your home. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm in my driveway. I'm in my driveway now. I'm not driving. So I just want to thank the fire captain because we had an incident where our alarm went off. I believe it was the carbon monoxide. And my husband called PG&E and they couldn't come out till like 3 days later. So they recommended to call, I guess it was, I don't know if it was 911 or the fire department, but someone came out to the house from the fire department. I wasn't here. So thanks for that. I just want to, with the 500 homes, that's countywide, I believe. But I too am interested about San Juan because we are, we have a lot of units and I know there's some people that may have sort of skated around the legal construction of things. But hopefully bringing them, out into code would be great, not to be punitive, but to be safe because fire is a hazard. And I happen to live in a neighborhood where there's a mixed use residential and light industrial, I guess, or business. So I'm wondering if the fire captain is going to go out to some of these warehouses that are in residential neighborhoods that have just been recently occupied with new businesses. That'd be one concern for me because I live next door to one now. And also all of the Airbnb units that we have in town. I'm hoping they were on the 500 list as well. But thanks for your hard work and keeping us safe.
Thank you. And if I could make a recommendation, anytime your smoke detector or your carbon monoxide detector is going off for the residents, just call 911. It's okay. We have a lot of old buildings over here. We could have a lot of malfunctioning heaters over here. So just call us and we can get out there and evaluate it right away. So don't be hesitant on that. We never want to take a chance with carbon monoxide detectors going off.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thanks again, Charlie. Have a happy Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Be safe, be well.
Thank you all.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista acknowledging Hollister Fire Department to perform the inspection of certain occupancies required annually pursuant to section 13146.2 and 13146.3 of the California Health and Safety Code and authorize the acceptance of Senate Bill 1205.
So moved.
Thank you very much.
I'll
I'll
second
second
that.
it.
Thank you, Scott. Sorry, John, you have the next one.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Doesn't matter.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes,
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
With all members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4001 with Councilmember Edge absent.
Thank you very much. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista increasing the number of members and appointing members to the City of San Juan Bautista Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee. Assistant City Manager Brian.
Yes, happy to be here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I was having a little
Loud and
trouble with
clear.
my mic earlier. This has been 3 or 4 months in the making, and previously on November 16th, and just a correction to the staff report, on the 16th, council adopted a resolution appointing or establishing a 7-member committee. We had 11 applications. All of them are certainly qualified to be on the committee. They have businesses or interests in the community and represent diverse interests. And so we are very pleased to have an 11-member committee. We have 1 member who won't be able to actively join the committee and for another 3 or 4 months because she's been deployed, but we will be able to continue with the committee nonetheless. So we're recommending that the council adopt the resolution appointing the members referenced in the staff report, attachment 1 for the terms indicated in that attachment. And again, this is the standing committee of the City Council, subject to the Brown Act and the Maddie Act, and will be reporting regularly to the City Council on their activities. And as I said in the staff report, staff will be assembling a technical advisory committee to assist the committee, the Citizens Advisory Committee, in its work. Okay, that's the staff report.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Mayor Flores.
No, I have none.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
No questions. I'm happy to see so many people were wanted to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
no questions. Like Scott, happy to see active participation in the community.
Thank you. Yes, this is a very diverse group. Thank you all who applied and welcome all who have who are now the committee. For those who did not get the list, Beverly Meamber, Kara Denny, Darlene Boyd, Fran Fitzharris, Helena Watson, Christina Hastings, Liz Sanchez Turner, Patricia Baines, Stephanie Correa, Susie Valles, and Teresa Lavanino. Welcome. Very much looking forward to seeing what happens with this group and where we move forward. Questions, comments, concerns from the public? Do we have any hands raised?
Mayor, there are no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. Looking forward to you being here in a moment. I will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista, increasing the number of members and appointing members to the City of San Juan Bautista Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a
I
second?
second that.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4001 with Councilmember Edge absent.
Thank you very much. Again, very much looking forward to what goes on in this group. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista accepting the San Juan Bautista municipal audit for fiscal year 2020-2021. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Jordan, members of the City Council. Oh, the heater turned off just in time. This is a follow-up to item 4 on our agenda that this council received earlier in the meeting tonight, a full presentation on the audit, suggesting that it was a clean audit opinion for the city, which is excellent. Puts us in a good position for funding our capital improvement projects moving forward. We did go through it and make a few minor changes to some of the wording in the audit. Just so we are recommending a few edits, but not substantial. We're not changing any of the numbers. I can just give you, for example, when we agreed to reimburse Meritage because Meritage overpaid us for fees, the auditor considered that to be a settlement, and we didn't like the word settlement in the audit, so that's going to be a refund of a developer deposit. So we're just going to go through and with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that it meets all the needs that we have coming up in this new calendar year. It's an exciting time. And this is a great document for the city to use moving forward. So with that, I would ask the council's consideration and adoption of the resolution attached.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Mayor Flores.
None.
Thank you. Councilman Friels.
No questions. I'm happy that our audit was clean. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
No questions. Happy with a good audit.
Thank you very much. Like the verbiage change from settlement. Questions, comments, concerns from the public? Do we have any hands raised?
No, Mayor, there are no hands raised.
Thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista accepting the San Juan Bautista municipal audit for fiscal year 2020-2021.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4001 with Councilmember Edge absent.
Thank you. Discussion items. A, annual review of code of ethics for council members, board members, and commissioners. City Manager Don Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This should be a regular part of our December meeting because we need to review our code of ethics annually, and I've provided that in Resolution 2018-17 is attached to the staff report. And if you want to review it, I can pull it up on the screen and share the screen with you. Back in 2018, it was a little bit different world, and a lot has changed in the last year. So I believe it's good that we take a look at this once a year. Talks about basically the decorum by which council members and commissioners will perform their duties, representing the entire city. Knowing when they're talking for themselves versus knowing when they're representing the city on social media. That's another issue that is a modern issue of our 21st century. But also now with our webinar format that we've been using, there are certain issues to consider, such as having a closed session and making sure that you're in the room by yourself during closed session meetings, and the use of language and trying to refrain from eating and informalities. Unfortunately, our Zoom meetings, at least for a while, became really relaxed, and there was a need for structure. I attached to the council a brief item on Zoom meetings and the conduct during Zoom meetings, asking members of the planning commission and HRB to raise their hand and then be chosen so that they wouldn't be talking over each other. And that the members of the public also raise their hand or use the *9 when wanting to speak. And I think we're all learning as we go, and we're getting better at these things. So I don't know if there's any need to change the decorum or the code of ethics. We can bring them up and talk about them if you like, or I can jot down some notes and we can take a stab at modifying them. This is our chance to conduct an annual review. So I'd be happy to hear what the council and community have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing this up again. Vice Mayor Flores,
Yes.
any additions, subtractions, comments?
No, I think it's a good idea. In the past, elected officials were using the phone while they were doing the meeting and stuff like that, so it hasn't happened lately. And I'm glad. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels?
Nothing yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a few comments. When I literally wrote the code of ethics, so I do know what's in it. I wrote it. I read a lot of code of ethics from a lot of jurisdictions around here. Some are 1 page long. Some, like Sunnyvale and Mountain View, are over 200 pages long. And I decided to try and make it short and positive and to the point, without being a list of not the 10 commandments, but like the 50 commandments, which is what Sunnyvale had. And so I feel that that's a way, because that type of statement can grow and stretch with changing times. Zoom protocols can be accessed through, let's see, what is it? Okay, where is it? Conduct of public meetings, section 5. So that can all be addressed through there. We want to make a few changes to section 5. I would have no issues with that, but I think that's where it's at. I think it actually covers it. Thank you.
Sorry, just rereading number 5. For all those who don't have a paper copy, members shall prepare themselves for public issues, listen courteously and attentively to all public discussions before the body, and focus on the business at hand. They shall refrain from interrupting other speakers, making personal comments not germane to the business of the body, or otherwise interfering with the orderly conduct of meetings. I think we have progressed considerably in the last few years of this council. We still have a couple of hiccups every now and again, but for the most part, as long as, wow, my screen just did something really bad. Thank you, Don, for that.
There you go. Sorry. Bright and white, I know.
Wow, I lost my train of thought on that one. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Just to remember all, and this goes to the other boards and commissions as well, that we are all servants of the public, and like any other government entity, they follow our lead. So we should lead respectfully, and follow our own code of ethics, our own codes, our own ordinances. And I actually have appreciated the conduct that this council has shown. Y'all are an amazing group to work with. I appreciate you. And we do all have hiccups, but we come back and make sure that we get things done. So again, I appreciate you all. Scott, are we coming back to you? No? Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns from the public?
No, Mayor, I don't see any hands raised.
Thank you. And then Don, you brought this to everybody to have the code of ethics to have signed at one point. If we have not all signed it, can you please sign and return to City Hall?
Yes.
Saying that we have read them. Thank you all. Discussion item B, update for the community hall rental policy, private security.
Thank you, Mayor. We had an opportunity, and we have an opportunity now to rethink at least this policy as it pertains to the rental of our community hall. The city council has developed, the city council and city staff have worked on an extensive policy for the rental of that facility, and it's attached to the staff report, and it is 6 or 7 pages long, including a rental agreement. And it's pretty thorough and covers much of the concerns that have come up over the past. We had an old policy that was shared with the council in the staff report where we were allowing people who rented the facility to select their own security company, and we weren't apparently managing which companies were being selected and whether or not those were qualified, credentialed, and licensed security companies. And so what I provide in the staff report is the licensing process, the state licensing process for security guard and patrol companies. And in fact, when I contacted the Bureau of Security Investigations, they wanted to make sure that the city was not creating security guard staff members. I said, no, this is for hiring security guard companies. So with these credentials in mind, I went to the risk management team and the legal team and asked what their thoughts were. And I include a quote in there from CIRA, our risk management group, and they suggested and strongly recommend that the city allow the renters to choose from a vetted list of eligible and willing security teams. So they would be vetted by having current licenses and good referrals and the appropriate insurance in particular. If in fact the facility is damaged or the behavior of the people renting the facility is not kept intact, we would have the ability to remove them or even file a claim against their insurance should we have suffered damage that the security company wasn't doing its job. So that's the goal, is to consider a new way rather than the city contracting for security at the community hall to manage someone else's party. We would have the renter contract directly with them. And that's the process outlined in the staff report. And that's the recommended change in the policy, that we establish a list of good security companies that are licensed, and we provide those to the renters of the facility in time for them to contract, and then demonstrate that they have a binding contract for their event before the event begins. So that's the process and the change that's recommended and presented in the staff report. And with that, Mayor, I'm happy to have a discussion on that issue.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Flores?
No comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels?
Just that I really agree with the letter that was sent from Eric Young. It does promote a little bit of competition, and it doesn't make it look like we're playing favorites. Maybe, I don't know if that's their concern, but it's spelled out it's pretty significant how they spelled it out. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And then hopefully we can revisit after this. I know this is on the security, but hopefully someday we can revisit our fees, because it didn't seem like we charge enough.
I agree.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman?
First of all, I'd like to agree with Scott again. We do not charge enough, and the fee schedule needs to be revisited by staff and by possibly the city council. I also completely agree with the recommendation. I think we should have a list of at least 3, but probably not more than 5 or 6 vetted, viable, licensed, reputable security companies to give the individual renter the opportunity to pick and choose from that vetted list of 3 to 5 companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My biggest concern with this, and it's been all along, is that the community hall is city property. And we have seen time and time again the disrespect of our facilities, whether it's the parks or the community hall or whatever anybody is renting, but especially the community hall, with what has gone on after a party is supposed to let out, the disregard, the disrespect of our facility. I think having the security company that we contract to protect our city and our facilities, they have a vested interest in it, and excuse me, and do a heck of a good job at looking out for our interests. So I'm not sure I agree with going. I am sure I'm not. I don't like the idea of going out to other vendors. We actually looked at another company, tried to get them in here twice, and they failed us at the very last minute. I don't know. I think the security company that we have, Level 1 Private Security, does a great job in protecting our assets. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns from the public?
Sorry, no, there are no hands raised.
Thank you very much. What is that? I keep hearing that go off. And definitely our fees. Don and I discussed that already.
Well, Mayor, until we get a list together, Level 1 is definitely on the list currently, and I'm not suggesting removing them. So it wouldn't hurt to see if we can find some interest in some qualified companies and then compare notes.
Perfect.
But
thank you.
We have to have a contract. That's the deal. And so the contract should be between the security company and the people renting the facility.
I absolutely agree with that one. Absolutely. Yeah.
If I may add.
Go ahead.
I remember, it was a while back. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was at least 3 years ago, maybe 4. We were thinking about making Level 1 the sole vendor for the security for the community center. And literally a month later, they had all their people employed elsewhere, and they couldn't provide the service on a Saturday night. So I do think we need a choice. We always need a choice. Need a backup, need a plan B. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? SB 9 proposed legislation, Community Development Director Brian Bout.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, this is another foray for the state legislature into local government control over its, you know, our own planning and zoning effectively ends single-family residential zoning in California under certain circumstances. And before we panic about this and jump into an urgency ordinance, we need to look at whether the ordinance, whether the law actually applies to San Juan Bautista. And there are new census designations for urban clusters that are defined in the law that seem to make it possible that we would not be subject to this legislation. In particular, urban clusters are cities or areas within counties that have between 2,500 and 5,000, I think it's 40,999 population. I'm sorry, 49,999 population. So it's questionable whether San Juan Bautista now is meets that definition and is within that envelope. And I would look at State Department of Finance population estimates, and it doesn't seem that we meet that standard. And if you look at the provisions in the law that I've provided in the agenda packet at section 66411.72C, you'll see that the law does not apply to jurisdictions with less than 2,500 population. So we may be able to breathe a sigh of relief. You know, there are some specific instances here. You know, the law doesn't apply to historic districts. If it does apply, we would do what many jurisdictions have done in California, which is to adopt an urgency ordinance that enables us to quickly put in place objective standards that protect our interests. This law is very controversial, of course, but jurisdictions are revising their codes to comply with the law, and in many cases, in most cases, have adopted interim ordinances that contain standards while they study what exactly they need to do. We will advise the City Council in January regarding it's necessary to enter into that process. Right now, I don't think that it is. And so just for information purposes, I've attached the legislation and also an article by William Fulton, who's a preeminent land use specialist in California, regarding whether SB 9 will affect, how SB 9 will affect cities, generally speaking. So that's for your information at this point.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Flores?
No comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels?
Yeah, I read through all this stuff. I read through the propaganda on the line on the from the authors and the co-author, which was Senator Caballero. And I can only get through so much of it before it started making me sick. This is the total destruction of R1. And I agree, maybe it won't affect San Juan Bautista, but it's almost to the point, why are we even sitting here? Because if Sacramento wants to run our towns, maybe they should start putting the Politburo members in the seats. But hopefully you're right, Brian. Hopefully you don't have to swallow this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman?
Yes, I'm glad to hear that there's a few outs, because a town of our size and our limited financial means don't really have the ability to do all that we need to do in the situations like this. I'm not quite all the way with Scott, but I'm pretty close. A little bit too much. How can I term this? Too much fine use planning by the state. You know, they're just trying to micromanage everything, and I think that long term, that's a recipe for disaster. I understand that they need to up housing units because we don't have enough housing units, and I understand that, and I can understand why people want more housing, but I also strongly feel that the housing should be built close to where the jobs are. And in that case, it should be Apple and Google who are building huge apartment complexes or whatever, not necessarily San Juan Bautista. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John and Scott. Yeah, wow. Yuck. Sorry, that's very profound. Do we have any comment from the public?
Yes, Jackie Morris Lopez.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome.
Hi, good evening once again. Yeah, I concur with Councilman Freeman and Friels, and I am a little bit aware of this new mandate. And I just want to say that our representatives, Rivas and Caballero, are not our friends on this. When they mentioned in the arena discussion about sending your sentiments and letters to Assemblyperson Rivas, I mean, he and Caballero co-authored this bill. And what they're trying to do is destroy all of the rural surrounding areas and have infill and have all this housing. And I agree with Councilman Freeman. That needs to be where there's center of jobs. We do not have jobs here. If you put these housing out in the rural area, we don't have transportation. People are going to commute and they're going to create all of this pollution. And it's a destruction of our rural beauty here. And I believe, and I've said this from a couple of years ago, if you remember me speaking up at council meetings, at planning commission meetings, that one size does not fit all. And we have to band together as a community and support our elected officials there to, and our appointed staff people like Mr. Fout to support them, because we cannot let this happen to our town and our surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Future agenda items. Brian, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Future agenda items. Anybody have anything for the greater good for next meeting?
Yeah, one thing if I could, not so much next meeting, but I'd like to kind of get the ball rolling next year. We've already knocked out our little parks, right? We got the Rudy Park getting dialed in, and the same with Franklin. We got a large chunk of property up of Washington and Lang, and it was a subject that came up last night in the public safety meeting too. It's time to develop that. You know, that place has been, it's time to put a park in. It's been there the city's owned it for almost 20 years now, and it's a big, beautiful plot of land. I would love to see it get started, and I would love to be on any type of committee to push that through. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman, did you have something?
Yes, like Scott, I would like to speak about parks, this time a possibly different park. I personally feel that we still have not done enough for the middle school and high school aged youth of our town. And if they don't have things to do, they're going to get in trouble. So that's the other thing. So we might want to build a small park across the street from Rudy Park at the Public Works Department. Public Works can move to another place, sewer plant, well 6, etc. There's lots of room out there. And put in a little, the kids on the youth commission for 5 or 6 years have asked for a skateboard park, and they never got anywhere for a huge variety of reasons. Number one, we don't have the resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now we can maybe find them through grants. And we need to give those kids something to do. I'd like to make sure that we get the basketball court fence moved back with the federal money that was given to us for COVID and things like that, and possibly think about putting in a small skateboard park and improving that area as a park for people over 10, or over 10 years old. And that could even include adults, because I understand that adults skate. So it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, parks and youth have been a big topic of conversation in both safety and the council meetings. So if there's extra monies hanging around or coming up from California Consulting that they can find, that would be awesome. Any other suggestions? No? Okay. Thank you all. Comments, final comments from the council. Vice Mayor Flores.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. Have happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels.
Just a question of the council. What would you all think of maybe moving our council comments a little closer to the beginning of the meeting? Mainly because sometimes some of us have something to say about one of our nonprofits that, let's say, is having a fundraiser or anything of that means. And if we run these meetings until 10 o'clock at night, a lot of folks are just tapping out on us. You know, for example, I don't know if anybody knows it, but the VFW is on Sundays. They've got the canteen open and they got football games on, and you know, they could use our help, and just little things like that. It seems like we all have something good to say at the end of the evening, but there's only one person left. You know, it's us and you know, well, when the meetings are going, it's us, Dawn, and the poor folks from CMAP. So it's just I don't know. I just throwing it out there. I know other councils around the area do the same thing. And we're really not overwinded. You know, we don't go on and on. It's just quick notes. Just throwing that out there. Thank you. And everybody have a, you know, if I don't see you before, have a Merry Christmas and please be safe.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
Yes, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I think I said last month, be careful with COVID. It looks like that was one of the few times I was really right on the button. And so keep it up. There's testing available, and you can buy tests at Walgreens for an Abbott test for $22.99, and that has 2 tests in it. So it's a way to get to know if you're infected a little bit quicker than otherwise. So once again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, here's one to your point. The fire department is holding a toy drive. So if anybody out there is still listening, you can drop new toys off to the firehouse on 2nd Street. They will gladly take them, and they'll be distributed for kids. It's a kid toy drive. Thank you all very much. Fabulous year. Again, I appreciate you all. Happy holidays. Be safe, be smart. City Manager Don Reynolds, finals. Thank you. Short and sweet. City Attorney Deborah Mall.
Just happy holidays, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you
Happy
very much.
holidays.
Thank you. Trish, anything?
No, I have nothing to include.
Thank you. Brian? He checked out.
I'm good. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you very much.
I'm here.
Have a good night, all.
All right.
All right. Take care, everybody. Be
See you
safe.
next year.
Good night. See you next year.
I move to adjourn.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All three of us agree? Have at it. See you later. Bye.
Cheers.
See ya.
Leave webinar.